In this particular episode of Sherlock, um, Jim Moriarty is brought back in, um, being Sherlock's nemesis. Some of the key similarities between these two, they're both very hypersensitive. By this I mean their senses, touch, taste, smell, are just on a different level than the ordinary people. Um, they had one conversation the first time that Moriarty meets with Sherlock. Um, their their thinking is in a way on the same wavelength. They were almost finishing each other's sentences. Um, you know, Moriarty was dropping off many riddles that Sherlock was able to, basically to finish there and solve right in front of him, which Moriarty appreciated. So on that level, you do see a lot of similarities between the two characters. Um, they don't they don't gravitate towards the mundane. Um, Moriarty refers to people as being as just that ordinary person, and that them two are on a different level, and he references back to that several times throughout the episode. How are they different? Sherlock obviously is, as Moriarty puts it, he's on the side of the angels, and Sherlock, especially within this episode, tries to, separate himself from what, the limelight. One of the biggest things was in the beginning of the episode, he was receiving some accolades for several cases that he had solved, and people were giving him things, tokens of their appreciation. And Sherlock, being Sherlock, he doesn't gravitate towards the limelight, especially, but he doesn't care what people think, as opposed to Moriarty. Moriarty is more of this flamboyant, one of the, in this episode where he rolls out his simultaneous security breach on 3 highly secured facilities. He's just a very wow kind of style, where Sherlock likes to play in the background behind the scenes, but does like to show off his intelligence. I think this episode plays more, it probably plays more towards it plays both towards similarity and the differences of these victims, or of these. I think in this episode that it plays both into the character similarities and the differences. As we go through, as Sherlock does try to separate himself from Moriarty, and Moriarty, as much as possible, tries to reel Sherlock into his kind of thinking. We see that especially at the end, up on the rooftop, where Sherlock finally admits to saying we are the same, and agreeing with him, which kind of throws Moriarty off for the time being. I think Sherlock came to a point where he was questioning everything that he was about, who he was, what he's done. There was a potential sign of um, um, it seemed like a moment of frailty from Sherlock up on their final conversation.